My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Well, we just invoked Saint Joseph, and that's appropriate today because today's gospel passage refers to Saint Joseph, in particular to what is called the dream of Joseph. He had several dreams, and this in particular is the one that clarified to him why he saw Mary pregnant. And there's a long-standing tradition of Baroque painting from the 17th century that represents this magnificent scene in different ways that really show a very beautiful way in which Joseph is asleep and an angel comes and reveals to him what is happening there. And there's a famous painting in the National Gallery from the 17th century by Philippe de Champagne. He was the court painter under King Louis XIII, and it shows just a vivid representation, just with this robust realism of an angel just practically falling out of the sky, pointing at Mary, and Joseph is there, his eyes half closed, and he's leaning up against a chair of some kind. Or there's another, one of my favorite ones by Luca Giordano, which is much larger, and there we see Our Lady on one side with God the Father above with angels and stuff, and she's luminous, and then on the other side, on the right side, we see Joseph asleep or leaning on a table in a cluttered workshop with tools of the trade all over the place, and Gabriel swooping down to tell him exactly why Mary was pregnant. And of course, there are many other paintings you can look up. They're wonderful paintings, and many patrons had a real interest in this scene. It touched them deeply, and it has to touch us too. And of course, we remember that this dream happened at a moment in which Joseph was very perplexed. And these paintings often show a kind of somber and dark surrounding, and because poor Joseph, he didn't understand what was going on. He had seen Mary, his future wife, and he thought, how could she actually be pregnant? It's not possible. There's something here I don't understand, he thought. And so he had resolved to dismiss her quietly so as to not bring public shame on her, and he didn't want any trouble for her, and the whole time she didn't say anything to him, and so he didn't know what was going on. But of course, the key to this mysterious incident, and this explains why perhaps it's a popular subject, is that the gospel says that he was a righteous man. Joseph was a righteous man, meaning that he was humble and simple enough to understand that there was a mystery happening that was beyond him here, and it was best for him simply to hide away, to let things take their course. He sort of intuited that there was something uniquely divine here, but that he was not worthy of it. And so maybe he'd better leave. It may sound like he was escaping the challenge, but really, in front of the purity and exquisite beauty of Mary, he felt totally unworthy. And how reassuring those words must have been from the angel in his dream. And this is what the gospel says. It says, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit, and she will bear a son, and you are to name him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." And that's all he heard. I mean, Matthew later on quotes from Isaiah that this was to fulfill the prophecy of Isaiah, but he didn't know that. I mean, all he knew was that Jesus was of the house of David, he was of the house of David, and that he was going to be the legal guardian of this Jesus, and that he was going to name him. So he was not going to be the natural father, but the foster father, meaning that he had been specifically chosen for this purpose. And secondly, he was informed that she will bear a son by the Holy Spirit, not by man, and therefore that this was something miraculous. And he can imagine, he took all this as he dozed in his armchair, or I don't know where, and it probably took a minute or two, and it really filled him with peace. Now, it's true that God gives life to those who act in an upright way and who trust in His power and wisdom, especially when faced with situations which exceed human understanding. Is there something now, Lord, that really frustrates me? Maybe that I really don't understand, something that really bothers me because I don't understand it? In some way, we can say that if I identify my greatest fears, my ongoing anxieties, that I will uncover my own sins, my lack of righteousness. And of course, the best part of this story, of course, is the most encouraging to us. It says that when Joseph awoke from sleep, he did as the angel commanded him. He just got up right away. He did not lie in bed and muse over the dream, turning it over in his head and wondering if it was real or not. He just got up and did it. Now, some people, when they hear the alarm go off in the morning, they don't get up right away. They're awake, but they lie there awake, not really facing what is coming in their day. And suddenly it can seem quite overwhelming because they think about all the things that they have to do and they get anxious. I have to do this, I have to do that. Oh my God, I gotta, And but that's not what Joseph did. He just got up. He said, "Bring it on, bring it on. Let's do it." And he must have felt a sudden surge of energy, perhaps an inner strength that took over and allowed him to deeply connect with his sense of purpose. His sense of purpose. Now I know why I was created, what I was created for. Now I know what I've been designed for. I still feel unworthy, but God will help. And maybe if I'm quiet enough, the angel will come back and clarify a few details that I didn't quite catch. And so the dream really told him the truth about himself. Now, Pope Francis has mentioned some of this in one of his homilies, his morning homilies. He says that while many dreams are just the dreamer's subconscious speaking, other dreams can be a privileged place, he says, to seek after truth, because there we cannot defend ourselves against the truth. They come and God speaks through dreams, he says. And he says Joseph was a man of dreams, but not a dreamer. He was not abstract. He didn't have his head in the clouds. And that's true. He didn't have his head in the clouds. He was really there to protect the Blessed Virgin and the child. But of course, what also stands out in this whole narrative is, of course, that Joseph never says a single word. In fact, the entire gospel, he never says a single word. There's not a single word that is recorded by Joseph. And that's why some theologians have called him Joseph the Silent. He was not one to chatter. He was not to talk and gossip for sure. And we may sometimes blurt things out unthinkingly, right? But not Joseph. He was, I would say, very reflective. He was full of faith. And this guided his every thought and his every deed. And Pope Francis mentions a practical case. He says sometimes parents see their children do something they wish they hadn't done, but they hold their tongues and they wait for the right moment. They don't yell right away. No, they wait for the opportune moment, which will indeed lead to growth. Now I know that Christmas time is a time where there are lots of office parties, lots of good food and sweets, and maybe we think, well, I should perhaps be a little bit more temperate in what I eat and stuff, and that's good. But temperance in the area of speech is probably an even better way to prepare Christmas. That's what I would suggest, and that way we can even imitate Joseph. And it might happen that I'm tempted to make a little belittling remark, and I notice like a surge to say something, and instead, I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say a kind remark. Or I'm tempted to be sarcastic, and instead, I'll say something sympathetic. Or I disagree, and I feel this strong urge to speak, and instead, I can say, I'm going to let it go. I don't have to be a passionate defender of the truth in every single family meal. This is the grace that we can ask St. Joseph. Or as St. Josemaria said in that point in the way, the appropriate word you left unsaid, the joke you didn't tell, the cheerful smile for those who bother you, that silence when you're unjustly accused, your kind conversation with people you find boring and tactless, the daily effort to overlook one irritating detail or another in those who live with you, this, with perseverance, is indeed solid interior mortification. Well, St. Joseph will help us in this task as he prays for us and will intercede to grant us this grace. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, St. Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.